Brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. No man was ill, Lazarus from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who had anointed the Lord with perfumed oil and dried his feet with her hair. It was her brother, Lazarus, who was ill. So the sisters sent word to him saying, "Master, the one you love is ill." When Jesus heard this, he said, "This illness is not to end in death, but it's for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. Then after this he said to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews were just trying to stone you, and you want to go back there?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours in a day? If one walks during the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks at night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him." He said this and then told them, "Our friend Lazarus is asleep, but I am going to awaken him." So the disciples said to him, "Master, if he is asleep, he will be saved." But Jesus was talking about his death. Well, they thought that he meant ordinary sleep. So then Jesus said to them clearly, "Lazarus has died. And I am glad for you that I was not there, that you may believe. Let us go to him." So Thomas, called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go to die with him." When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, only about 2 miles away. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary sat at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise." Martha said to him, "I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I have come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world." When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary secretly, saying, "The teacher is here and is asking for you." As soon as she heard this, she rose quickly and went to him. For Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still where Martha had met him. So when the Jews who were with her in the house comforting her saw Mary get up quickly and go out, they followed her, presuming that she was going to the tomb to weep there. When Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her weeping, he became perturbed and deeply troubled, and said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Sir, come and see." And Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died?" So Jesus, perturbed again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay across it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the dead man's sister, said to him, "Lord, by now there will be a stench. He has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me. But because of the crowd here, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me." And when he said this, he cried out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. So Jesus said to them, "Untie him and let him go." Now many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seeing what he had done began to believe in him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
Cemeteries in major cities across the world are filling up. So people are beginning to look for innovative ways in which to bury the dead. But there's some relief. Those of us living in towns and small cities have nothing to worry about. When we die, our body or cremated remains are more likely than not likely to end up in a grave. We come to be reminded that we are dust, and unto dust every single one of us shall return. The problem is, from the early stages of life, it seems we've already got one foot in the grave. The people of Israel had a foot in the grave, as it were, because they'd been exiled from their homeland, far away from relatives and friends. And there was a sense that something inside of them had died because of their exile. It may be that because of our distance from family and friends, we suffer a similar fate. It's a foot in the grave. And so we scurry and decide, okay, well, let's call them up. Let's send a Skype. Let's connect by text messaging or instant messaging. Let's see if we can electronically stay connected with each other. And my sense is that so oftentimes relying too much on electronics actually creates a distance rather than drawing us close. What is it that we're feeling? What is it that they're feeling? What is it you really say? And relationships often tend to remain at a pretty superficial. Such is the case with relatives and friends, and such as well is the relationship with God. There are other ways that we find ourselves with the foot in the grave. The Bible tells us that iniquity and sin land us far away from God. We're half dead. It may be that we think too much about ourselves. It may be that we just saturate ourselves with too much food, too much drink, too much of the electronics, too much of so much stuff. It may be that we're greedy, got to hold on to everything, and the toys and the machines and the clothing, and we have so much stuff, we're not even sure where we're going to put it. We have storage problems in almost every household because of the stuff that can oftentimes just suffocate us. And it's a little bit like we've buried ourselves in a makeshift grave. And we come to realize, boy, the laziness that overtakes our lives. I say to myself, for years I've been talking about learning how to do PowerPoint, which I think our 6 and 7-year-olds now know how to do. I'm going to do it, and I never get around to it. And there's a lazy streak in us that just procrastinates. And as a result, we're not as fully alive as we might otherwise be. These iniquities, these sins, they're also called pride and gluttony, and they're called greed and laziness or sloth. And so we've got another foot in the grave. But Jesus comes along, and he comes to a man who's got both feet in the grave. And he decides that he'd like to give him a chance to live another day. And in the same way, he wants for us, all of us, to have a chance to live another day. And what Jesus does with Lazarus, he comes to offer to do with us. And so to Lazarus, He comes, he loves them, we're told. And he loves his sisters, he loves the whole family. And he loves us tremendously. Sometimes we just forget. And Jesus weeps for his friend Lazarus, and he weeps for us, yearning to allow for us to have the abundant life that he wishes every single one of us to have. And he comes and he cries out to Lazarus, whom he wants to have rise to new life. Lazarus, come out, he tells him. And then he says, untie him and let him go. And he's wanting us to look at whatever barriers that keep us from being fully alive, and from being loving human beings. He wants those to be removed and is looking to push those things away in order that we can emerge anew as people filled with the spiritual gifts, filled with the spiritual power, filled with the very Spirit of God, that enables us to be able to laugh and cry, to feel, and to connect, and to find new ways to love one another. Our return to the Eucharist is a way of saying, we believe in the resurrection, we believe in the new life, we believe in the power of the Holy Spirit to get us out of the graves that we dig for ourselves. The time will come soon enough that we'll pass from this life. But in the meantime, God desires for every single one of us, like Jesus, to have life and to have it to the full.